Trump trial, day 2. We are back in session, picking up with jury selection, and we are going to be going through the transcripts courtesy of Inner City Press. Matthew Russell Lee, links down in the description below, who was there and reporting on X about the day's activities as we seat some jurors on day 2. But Trump was speaking about this before the day got started, and here is what he said walking into the courtroom. This was the scene. Fox News reporting this bright and early this morning. Trump joined by Todd Blanche in New York.
Thank you very much. This is a trial that should have never been brought. It's a trial that is being looked upon, looked at all over the world. They're looking at it and analyzing it. Every legal pundit, every legal scholar said this trial is a disgrace. We have a Trump-hating judge. We have a judge who shouldn't be on this case. He's totally conflicted. But this is a trial that should never happen. It should have been thrown out a long time ago. If you look at Jonathan Turley, Andy McCarthy, all great legal scholars, there's not one that we've been able to find that said this should be a trial. I was paying a lawyer and marked it down as a legal expense. Some accountant, I didn't know, marked it down as a legal expense. That's exactly what it was. And you get indicted over that? I should be right now in Pennsylvania, in Florida, in many other states, North Carolina, Georgia, campaigning. This is all coming from the Byron White House. Because the guy can't put two sentences together. He can't campaign. They're using this in order to try and win an election. And it's not working that way. It's working the opposite way. So check it out. Legal expense. It's called legal expense. That's what you're supposed to call it. Mr. Trump, you get indicted on that. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. So thank you very much for coming. I'm now going to sit down for many hours. I am now going to sit down. The voters understand it. All you have to do is look at the polls. This is a sham trial, and the judge should recuse himself because it's totally conflicted. Thank you very much.
All right, so Trump out there in New York on day 2, and we jump right into the reporting courtesy of Inner City Press reporting from inside the New York courtroom. Here is how the day unfolds. Day 2, judge is not in the courtroom yet. Hustle and bustle around the courtroom. Papers shuffling around, murmurs in the background. Trump sitting alone at the defense table. Empty seats. Todd Blanche is up. Emil Bove is on the other side of him. They're up standing talking around. Susan Nicholas, another defense attorney, one seat away from Trump. She's writing some notes down on a legal pad. Todd Blanche comes over. He sits down. Lead defense attorney chair. Turns over, starts talking to Trump. They get engaged in a conversation. They're both raising their hands to gesticulate like a couple of Italians. Blah, blah, blah. Justice Mercan, his chair is still empty. Where's the judge? Said that they were starting at 9:30 sharp every day, but no judge in session. Maybe Trump and his attorney were pointing to their clock. Where are you at, judge? Time goes by. Everyone's wondering where he is. Boom, door pops open. All right. Oh, gosh, here's this judge again. All right, put your phone away. All right, stand up. Please be seated. Clerk of the court says, all right, this is the case of people of the state of New York, so-called, versus Donald Trump, case number, whatever. Court is in session. Mercan, the judge, says, all right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we've been waiting on some jurors. That's why we were late, not my fault. There are 3 jurors that we're still waiting on from yesterday. Apparently, 2 of them were in the box. Seats 2 and 8 we're waiting on. Seat 10 called in. Apparently, seat 10 feels sick. But she said it's not COVID, though, and she's outside, though. She's in a mask. Anyone here have any objections to excusing her? The judge says. None? No one? Okay, she's excused. She's gone. Get rid of her. All right, now we got seats 2 and 8. So these are empty. Should we refill the seats on seats 2 and 8? Todd Blanche says, Your Honor, they should be excused. Todd's looking at his jury notes from yesterday. He's like, I don't like those jurors. They got to go. They should be excused. They're not here. They should go. The judge says, well, let's wait a minute or two. Let's see if they're here. Todd says, fine. Minute goes by. Judge says, okay, whispering. All right, let's bring them in. I'm told 2 out of the 3 are here. And so let's find out if it seats 2 and 8 or if it's one of the prospective jurors sitting in the audience. Judge is pointing around. Oh, wait, we don't have the 2 jurors? Okay, we do. Okay, they're lining up and they're going to be brought in. So Todd says, okay, so Your Honor, so we're moving on without them then? Judge says, yeah, if they come in late, I don't intend to excuse them, but I'll have them in the audience and I'll use them if needed. Todd says, okay. And we're going to have a little difficulty here. There's going to be a lot of numbers, a lot of people moving around. So we're going to try to keep tabs on it. And let's not worry too much about who's going where just yet until we get to the end. When the jury is seated, we're going to be able to really assess, follow the bouncing ball to where they landed, and we'll have a better idea of what the makeup is. So the judge says we're moving on. Clerk says, okay, so we're refilling the 2 seats, the 2 people that were missing. Judge says, okay, let's start with seat 8. So seat 8, this guy is here. This juror now stands and he answers these questions. Remember, there was a series of questions and they're just saying, give us the highlights of these. So judge says, you, sir, seat 8, what do you got? Where do you live? He says, live? Well, I'm kind of a nomad. I've lived there for 4 years, or nomad. Lived there for 4 years. Originally from Dallas. I'm an accountant. I was with an oil and gas company. Not married, no children. I live alone. I like to play golf. I watch the New York Times. I'm on TikTok and I watch Fox News. Might be a good juror. Now, judge says, okay, so seat 8 has arrived. And so, okay, you're in seat 8. We're going to move you to seat 10. So you move over to 10. And now the juror in seat 10, I'm sorry, back to the audience. Seat 8 now in 10. Okay, what's your number? I'm B354. Okay, so juror 285, you're back in seat 8. All right, so back to seat 10, the guy who just moved, right? See what I'm saying? So tell me more about you. What else do you listen to? He says, a sports podcast, if I'm bored or whatever. He says, I have a fraternity brother who is an elected official, and he's a Republican. Kind of like that guy. So there may be some unconscious bias, he says. I grew up in Texas too, and my friends are from Texas, so I might have some unconscious bias. I'm a little close to Texas. And Texas, you go to Texas, you just start singing the Star-Spangled Banner. You can't help it. He's like, I don't know. I can't help it. So I grew up Republican as well. So the attorneys come up, they please approach. This guy's giving it away. You're like, just be quiet, okay? Just get on the panel. Trump is not up at the sidebar. He's alone at the defense table. The judge says, okay, well, we appreciate your candor. We're going to have to excuse you at this time because you're from Texas and you have a Republican friend and you might have some unconscious bias. I want to, sort of parse this out a little bit. Let's remember that there's a bunch of people, they've already been asked general questions about anybody who cannot serve because you're biased. Yes. Okay. 50 out of 92 raised their hands. They're all gone yesterday. Then anyone else who just can't serve for whatever reason, not because you're biased, because got to take care of your mama, got to take care of whatever, daycares, raise their hands, they're gone. So the people who are left theoretically have already passed those 2 filters. So now this guy's really analytical. He's like, I might have some unconscious bias. We're like, dude. So he gets himself out. He's gone, which is a bummer. We kind of wanted that guy. So they refill seat 10 with B158. Who are you? This new seat 10. Well, I live in Riverside Drive in Uptown. What do you do for a living? I review Social Security cases. Any reason you hate Trump? No. Any reason you can't be fair? No. Okay, thank you. They go to seat 11. Seat 11, she says, well, I don't think I can be impartial. She says, okay, well, you're gone then. Thanks for saying that. Hey, seat 11, you're refilled. B311 goes to seat 11. Okay, B311, let's hear about you. She says, well, I have a wedding on Friday, June 6th. Okay, well, could you be back on Monday? Apparently, yeah. So where do you live? Seat 11, Upper East Side. I work for KPMG, whatever that is. I'm not married. I live with my fiance, though, who works in a nonprofit. I go to the park. I like to run. I watch CNN, Google, New York Post, sports podcast, all the things. But I have to say something. Being on this jury, she says, would put stress on my personal life. I'd probably be leaving here and then working. Could you concentrate? Well, it might be difficult, she says. Okay, well, we'll excuse you then. So she's gone. That company was a major accounting firm, KPMG. Thank you for the assist, Golden. New seat 11. Being on this jury would put stress on my personal life. So you're out of here. Now they put B402 back in seat 11. All right, seat 11. I'm sorry, seat 1, the judge says. Do you have something to say? What day would you have to miss? Please approach. Okay, so seat 1, you're gone. So let's refill seat 1. The new seat 11 now says, okay, we got you seated. She's a woman. Ma'am, tell us about you. You're up. Where are you from? I live in the Upper West Side. How far did you go in school? I finished high school, some college. I've got 1 adult children. 1 is a postal worker. I get my news from the Daily News, more TikTok. No podcasts. I have something on April 30th that's across the street. April 30th, I think we could work around that, he says. Any reason you hate Trump? No. Any reason you can't be fair? No. Seat 12 goes over to the next one. He jumps up. Yeah, I can't be fair here. Sorry, can't do it. Okay, you're excused. Let's come back up. Now, this is a man who fills seat 12. Jury's moving forward. I live in Chelsea, grew up in Oregon. I'm an attorney. I do corporate law. Our firm is pretty big. We have about 200 lawyers. I like to hike and to run. I listen and read the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Google. No, I don't hate Trump. No, I can be fair. Seat 13, a woman, East Village. She works in cybersecurity for Google and Wired. I listen to NerdWallet and a couple of climate podcasts. My father works for the DOD. My stepmother is an accountant. I dated a lawyer for a while. It was fine. Smiles in the courtroom. So, all right, seat 13. How about 29H? Do you currently follow any anti-Trump group or organization on any social media site, or have you done so in the past? And she says, yes, I have previously. I have followed anti-Trump groups before. And I worry I couldn't get my work done until after 4:30. So she says, you're gone. All right, bye. You're off. Seat 13 comes back in. Sir, where are you from? He says, Hell's Kitchen. I was born in Mexico. I became a citizen in 2017. I'm not married, don't have any kids. I live with my dog. I read the New York Times, MSNBC, TikTok, and X. I listen to LGTB podcasts. No, I don't hate Trump. No reason I can't be fair. Thank you. So apparently that guy's good to go. That's going to be a problem. So seat 14, Lower East Side. This guy's from Puerto Rico. He does IT consulting. He's self-employed, married, long time. Wife is into writing. I've got no spare time. Hobby is my family. I've got one child, grandkids. Listen to the Daily News, New York Times. No, I don't hate Trump. No reason I can't be fair and impartial. 15 is a man. This guy lives in Battery Park City. He says, I work for a company called Diligent. I've been married twice, had a daughter with my first wife, but she's deceased. Rest in peace. I spent time in our second home in the country. I've got collectibles, and I'm on the board of my synagogue, and I read the ACLU. Oh, great. The New York Times, Huffington Post, and CNN. So also that's a disaster. He says, well, from my daughter's assault, it was primarily a traumatic experience, but I also came out with a general positive view of the legal system. So this guy's daughter got assaulted, like a grab him by the purse situation, but an actual one. Republicans, some relatives are lobbyists. I followed President Trump on X when he was president until they banned him. So it'd be tough to tell my wife not to tell my wife what trial I'm on. And he says, that's like, how can I not tell my wife? He said, well, you'd have to. Otherwise, a person not on the jury could have influence, so you can't tell her what case you're on. He says, do you hate Trump? No. Any reason you can't be fair? No. Seat 16 next. This is a woman. It says, I've been retired since 2019, and I used to work for the MTA, and then I trained dogs. And she says, I don't read the news every day, but I do have a Facebook account. Wall Street Journal when my next door neighbor gives it to me. Fox sometimes. New York One, watch that. I like This American Life, Jennifer Rubin, Hardcore History. In the car, I like Brian Lehrer. Nobody in accounting or finance, though. Says, my granddaughter asked me to go to a pro-choice rally one time. I don't know if it was about President Trump, probably. On the social media, there are things I didn't ask to be one on there, but I think it's called Occupy Democrats. So question, do you follow any anti-Trump groups? I think so. I don't intend to, but Occupy Democrats? Do you hate Trump? No. Any reason you can't be fair? No. Seat 17 is, next person is a woman. She's from Harlem. She's a teacher. She says, sometimes I listen to The Breakfast Club. My godfather was a homicide detective, but he's retired. Question about Trump says, I'm not going to pretend. Being in my generation, I blame it on one individual. So I could not be impartial. And so things pop up. No. So I don't know if she's sticking around, but sounds like she's probably gone. So I could not be impartial. Probably gone. Let's see where this goes. Now, seat 18 is a woman. We move on from 17. I have to go to a wedding in September. Would that be a problem? He says, September? If this case is still going in September, that's going to be a big problem. He says, I like to go to restaurants and play. I like to snowboard. I read the New York Times, Facebook, TikTok. Do you hate Trump? No, I'll be fair. They refill seat 1. Seat 1 is now back. And this woman says, well, my husband and I have a healthcare consulting company. He says, I work in advertising. My father was in the Wage Price Administration before I met him. Judge Mercan continues, we need to refill seat 1, please. Clerk is refilling seat 1. B250 comes over here. New seat 1. Now, how about 32? Do you have any feelings about how Trump is being treated in this case? No, I think he's being treated fairly. I'm not sure that I could be impartial, she says. Okay, you're gone. Clerk says, okay, refilling seat 1 again. The new seat 1 comes in. All right, sir, you're up. I work for the New York City Board of Education. Yeah, involved in crimes. A relative was hit by a stray bullet. Have you been impacted by crime? Yeah. The catalytic converter on my car was stolen. Thanks, Alvin Bragg, New York. Do you follow any Trump groups or anti-Trump groups? Well, I get emails from the Daily Caller. I think it is. I don't generally read the emails, but I could be impartial, and I don't hate Trump. And so we get through a nice big panel. Okay, we got a nice group of people. Seat 1 sounds like he's on there. Everybody else is on there, it sounds like. And so we've got a good row of prospective jurors. Now the judge says, okay, made it. So now the lawyers will be asking you individual questions, right? We're going to void deer now. We've got a panel here. We're going to ask some questions. Government prosecutor, his name is Joshua Steinglass. He says, all right, here on this jury panel, does anyone feel they question whether they can follow the law because of who Trump is? Anybody feel like they don't know if they can follow the law because of Trump? Raises his hand. How do you feel? He says, well, you listen to the facts of the case. And B330 says, well, I'm a public servant and I see this as an extension of that. Now, you also said you had some views about campaign finance limits. Is that right, B330? And she said, yeah, it's unfortunate that candidates have to raise so much money. Oh, they're all writing notes down. Prosecutor continues. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is really not about whether you like Donald Trump at all. It's really about the rule of law. The question is, did he commit this crime, and have we as the government actually proven it? And you're going to have access to the evidence, which the media has not had yet, at least not yet. And so the question is, with all of this, can you be fair? B128 says, well, I was away at a lake without Wi-Fi. And when I got back from my lake, I saw this. So I've not followed this case at all. And he says, that's fine. Like, you don't need to know. I think this guy's got a problem. You know, he's like, well, what do you think about this? He's like, that's fine. It's actually easier if you've heard nothing about this case. Anyone else? Any concerns? B285, did you move? Woman, no concerns from me. Prosecutor says, you're also going to find that some of the witnesses in this case have some bad issues. There's a tabloid publisher. There's an adult entertainer called a porn star entertainer. Give me a break. And a former lawyer for Mr. Trump, Michael Cohen, who's a perjurer. Some have publicly denied what they'll testify to. So he's kind of buttering them up, right? You try to like pre-program the jury. It's called persuasion. Before the act of persuasion, you have to persuade them. Some have publicly denied what they'll testify to, and you're going to learn why, but you're going to make determinations about Trump's intentions with regard to these business record entries. Now, what was he saying around the time of these false entries? You know, what was the climate? Can you do that? Could you return a guilty verdict? No one says no. Judge says, okay, everybody, we're going to take a short break here. Jurors leave. Judge says, Mr. Trump, are you waiving your right to be present at the sidebars? Have you signed that document saying that you're not going to come up here? Sidebar is when the attorneys walk up there and talk to the judge outside of earshot of the jury. Trump says, yes, I've signed. I need to come up there. Sure. We take our break. Prosecutor's done. Trump's attorney is up. Shout out to Todd Blanche. Defense says, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I represent President Trump. You see him right there. Now, it's important to him and to us that we find jurors who can be fair. Now, every one of you know of President Trump. That's great. That's fine. So there are no wrong answers here. We just want to hear your opinion. In B280, what's your opinion of why you're here? She says, well, I'm here for my civic duty. And Juror 285, when we were asking about your social media, thinking about that, what do you post? What do you see? You know, most of you read the New York Times, you all said. So 285, what do you see when you're reading it? She says, 285 says, well, I'm a female, so some of my friends have strong opinions about him. Yeah, the females for some reason. Now, I'm concerned with sports, so I don't really pay attention. But you're a prosecutor in another borough, though, right? Like, there's a prosecutor on this panel. Would you have assumptions? The prosecutor says it's about whether they can prove the case. Okay, but what's your view about President Trump? I don't really follow politics. I have law enforcement friends who are pro-Trump. Is this real? There's a prosecutor on this case who's currently being considered for a jury slot? I don't really follow politics. I have law enforcement friends who are pro-Trump. Todd Blanche continues. Next juror. What is your view of President Trump? He says, well, it makes no difference to this case what my view is. But what is your view? Well, if I were in a bar, I might tell you, but I'm not going to tell you here. Well, just give us a little bit. What do you think of him? He says, I'm a Democrat. There you go. Great. They go to the next juror. You're an attorney, right? What are your views of President Trump? He says, well, I was a fan of The Apprentice when I was in middle school at the time. Okay. And next, sir, you say that you use Facebook. What's your view of President Trump? Well, I disagree with several policies. My family and friends post things, you know, pro or against policies, but I try to stay in the middle. I just do what I need to do every day. Now, he says, I don't care about your politics. I'm asking about the individual. You know, we're asking about Trump, not necessarily about your voting history. B38, what do you say? Well, I can separate my politics from the facts. I'm just here to judge the facts. And B158, what's your view? You read the same news as the others here. What do you think? He says, well, I have stronger opinions of local stuff than national stuff. And how about you, 292? What's your view? Feelings are not facts. I disagree with some of his policies. So we have a bunch of Trump haters on this panel so far. And how about you, 292? You became a citizen. You know, how does that impact your view? Well, I became a citizen in 2017, his very first year. I'm grateful. And how about you? What's your view of the president? I find him fascinating. He just sets people off. That's true. He says, all right, that's true. Next. How about you? What do you think of him? Well, there's little that we agree on, says this person. He says, thank you for that, for your candor. So you're going to hear evidence of stuff from a long time ago. Okay, we're rewinding the clock all the way back to 2015. Trump's defense tells these prospective jurors, this might stir up some memories from you. All right, you're going to see some old tweets, but we want to start fresh at zero. Blank slate when we come in here. Can't bring any of that stuff with you. Can you do that? Someone says, whatever came of the tweets, somebody's behind it and filtering it. And so I'm skeptical. I was only on X for 2 days. He says, well, I know it's difficult to talk openly. I know President Trump is right here, but juror cuts him off. Says, I'm a person of color. You know, not to cut you off. This is the case. That's it. Like, I'm a person of color. So that's it. It's okay. B297. How about you? Well, we have different views. You know, that's fine. This is a person who's on trial. It's like a bloodbath. Most of you read the New York Times, says Todd. Who here is not aware that President Trump is charged in other cases? Anyone not aware? Only one? Okay, so you're aware of these other cases. The rest of you, how does it impact you? How about you? I know there are other cases in other states about other things, but this is the case here, and we're on its own merits here. And how about you, 381? What's your view? I'm not super familiar with the other charges. And how about you, 402? I've heard about about the other cases, but I just feel like until you prove them guilty, how can I say? You know, he speaks his mind, he stirs the pot. And I want to say some other things too, but my mother said, be nice, says this 402. I got some other things, but my mama told me to be nice. You're on the Trump case. Defense says, you're also going to hear about Michael Cohen and Kellyanne Conway and Hope Hicks. Would that impact you? Everybody shaking their heads. No, it's not going to impact us. What if there's no defense case? Can you accept that burden? If we don't even say a thing, can you accept that the burden is on the government? Trump could sit there and not say a word this whole case. If they haven't proven their case, that's their problem, because the presumption of innocence lies with the defense and the burden of proof lies on the government. So they all say, oh, we can handle it. We're great. Now the judge chimes in. He says, all right, jurors, now the law provides for the lawyers to make some decisions. And so I'm going to ask you to step out. And this is going to take some time before we get to this. Jury leaves. They're all scribbling around on their paper. Judge says, are you ready? Todd says, no, not yet. Okay, then at 2:15, but you should be ready then, and bring them in. So the jurors come in, they're excused, and we're back. And the jurors are out now. Okay, so the jurors are excused. And now we're having a dialogue inside the courtroom with the jurors free, and the attorneys are back in. Judge Mercan says, okay, we're back on the record. Counsel's present. We got the prosecutors, Bragg, and the Trump people here. Mr. Trump is present. Everybody ready? Todd Blanche says, yes, we are. Your Honor, there are a number of the jurors that we have social media posts for that are very much contrary to what they said. We got their names. We looked them up. Now, we don't want to confront them openly about this, but we got to bring it up. Like, they've got a bunch of, rants about Trump being MAGA. The judge says, well, they were told it is an anonymous jury. They were not told it's an anonymous jury. I said, okay, well, juror number one has a series of extraordinarily hostile Facebook posts. Juror number one is just rabid. Judge says, well, can I see them? He's okay. Was I handed the right thing? This screen has two different screen grabs. He says, well, this only shows people. There's a photo of people here, and it says, spread the honking cheer. And she says, well, yeah, that was election day. It was a celebration of the results of the election. So she was like thrilled that Trump lost, so-called, in the rigged election. Says it was a celebration. And the government says, well, there's no reference to Trump. He says, well, so how is this biased that she's celebrating Trump losing? How's this biased? Well, when the juror was asked her opinion of Trump, she said nothing. But when he lost the election, they celebrated. They got in the car, they spread the honking cheer. They're in a video where they're driving around honking because they're psychos, right? Can you play it for me? Here, they play it. They play it. Well, how do we know this is the juror's account? It's just based on the name? He's like, well, my daughter has a bunch of videos like that. How'd you find that? Maybe she's like texting his daughter, Lauren, hey, they can find you this way. Delete those too. Trump's lawyer, Susan Nicholas, Your Honor, this was an anti-Trump rally that she was at. And he says, well, it might be. I'm going to ask her to come in and you can ask her the questions herself. So, okay, seat one, B133, she's coming in here. We're going to ask her about her Facebook posts. Mercan says, before she comes in, I don't want this to be a cross-examination, so just a couple questions. They bring her in. Judge Mercan says, okay, hey, seat one, thanks for coming back in. Lawyers have a couple of questions for you. Todd Blanche for Trump's defense stands up. Hey, ma'am, we have a question about the 2020 election. There were some videos around 96th Street. She says, oh, I remember that. Yeah, the cars were honking. It reminded me of the 7 p.m. during the pandemic, out on the fire escape. Now, okay, thanks for the filling in the gaps there, juror. You suggested a full-on celebration in New York with a heart. You wrote, spread the honking cheer. Do you remember that? Yeah, I do. But I believe that a juror's job is to understand the facts of the case. Some walked out yesterday, and I believe I can be fair. Judge says, yeah, I think so too. I appreciate you coming back in. Yeah. Judge says, hey, Todd, Mr. Blanche, your client was saying something when the juror was only 12 feet away. I will not have anyone intimidated in this courtroom. And so you tell your client, right? The juror left already. So she comes in. They're talking about the Facebook post. Trump says something. Juror leaves. Judge Mercan blasts Trump. Don't you speak while she's here. Todd says, Your Honor, she didn't just post the video, okay? She commented on it and she must be dismissed. Alvin Bragg's office says, Your Honor, notwithstanding the propriety of trolling on the internet, this juror did not express bias, okay? Judge says, we're not going back and forth on this. Don't be ridiculous. I found her explanations credible. There is nothing offensive. I wasn't sure you'd even given me the right thing. I observed her and I found her credible. Trump is whispering in his other lawyer's ear, Emil Bove. And so the challenge is denied. So this woman who is like celebrating, driving around, honking horns, I guess making videos in full-on celebration, spread the honking cheer, is on the jury. Judge says no bias at all. Clearly fair, because Trump lost and she, apparently is neutral. Really wants to be on the jury. I can be honest, Your Honor. He's like, yeah, you can. Great. So Todd says, okay, well, how about this one, Judge? Let's go on to seat two. Let me show you this one. This guy literally tweets, lock him up, get him out. We can't have a juror like that. So let's put a pin in this one. He says, let's bring him in, says the prosecutor. But how was this research conducted? The profile photo has 2 two people in it, so how do we know who said it? And the judge says, well, your question was way too broad. Like, what is your opinion of Trump? It's way too broad. Well, it's open-ended on purpose so that we can ask about that. Judge says, oh, fine, okay, let's bring him in, B38. This juror said, lock him up, get him out. And I want to just remind ourselves that there were other people who already excused themselves, right? Honorable people who said, I've got bias. Clearly, I don't like this dude. And they self-selected to remove themselves, right? They did the thing of integrity, like that guy from Texas. I don't know, I might even have unconscious bias. I gotta go. This person tweeted, lock him up, get him out, and then didn't excuse himself. Said, no, I'm not biased at all. I can be totally fair and impartial, even though he absolutely hates Trump, wants him in prison. Now he gets to sit on a jury panel that literally gets to decide whether to lock him up. He should have excused himself. Now he'll probably get booted from the jury in a minute, but my point is he didn't self-select himself out. Okay, people are not going to be a good judge of whether they can be fair and impartial. This shows you how corrupted the whole process is. The fact that he's even still in the room. You get to be the judge of yourself. So clearly he's going to say he's fair. So he has an opportunity to lock him up. So they bring him in. Did this happen on Facebook? He says, yeah, it did. So there's another question. They bring this juror back in. B35's back in the courtroom. Todd Blanche, Trump's defense, says, I want to show you this. Is this your account? He says, yeah, that's my account. Do you remember putting this up? He says, it's on my account. Thank you, says the judge, and he leaves. Now, the judge finally gets it. He says, celebrating the end of the travel ban was one thing, yeah, but expressing a desire that Trump be locked up, this case could result in jail time, and that is lockup. So I'll excuse this juror for cause. Next, he's like, I can't believe that guy actually posted on it. So that guy should have excused himself, clearly, right? He knew better. He got caught, and then the judge had to excuse him because Trump's team looked him up and figured it out. Even the judge is like, well, I don't know. And how many other people are going to be able to hide it, right? There's no honor with these people who are trying to get on. So there's another one. Trump's attorney comes back out. 3:30. It's her husband's account. It has a meme of President Trump's head being held. The Kathy Griffin severed head. Remember that? So wife is on the jury panel. Husband wants Trump decapitated. Says, well, there's also an image of Barack Obama, then your client, and it says, I don't think this is what they meant by orange is the new black. Maybe some meme or something. Todd says, well, we'd like to ask the juror for family. He says, oh, we're not going to go to this. You should have asked if you have the goods. And the prosecutor says, it's humor, Your Honor. It's just a joke. Okay, it's not a window into their soul. And the judge says, so I'm not going to allow you to inquire about her husband's post from 8 years ago. So cases from 8 years ago. It's humor, though it's not very good humor. Who's next? So jurors, Kathy Griffin's whole career went into the toilet because it's not funny, actually. It's not humor at all. It's like psychopathy. Like it's a funny thing to have a human decapitated and you hold their head in your hand. What? So the woman is married to a husband who wants Trump decapitated, thinks that's funny, and they're going to be on the panel. Great. Juror number 6, there's a video. Trump, quote, I'm dumb as F, and he posted about the 96 jurors and answered if he was a juror, he said he can't say I have to return tomorrow. And he says, we think he complied with your honor's order, and so let's bring him in. So they bring this juror in. They say, I want to show you this account. He says, yeah, that's my account. I sell buttons to support a PAC that supports bringing out the vote. What are the names of your PAC? Movement for Voters. Okay. And did you watch this video before you reposted it? No, I didn't. I just reposted it. And the video says, Trump, I'm dumb as F. Something like that. Okay, thank you, juror. And so he leaves. He says, I can't credit the juror's responses. I didn't believe him. So cause accepted. That guy's gone. So then we pause. They come back with the people that they're going to strike. Prosecutor says, okay, we move to strike prospective jurors. And Trump's attorney strikes 2. 5 and 10 are now gone. So they move the seats forward. Seat 4, B400 becomes 1 and our 4-person. 9 becomes 2. 12 becomes 3, and they read them out. Judge says, all right, everybody, I've been handed photos. It says, quote, Trump invites Thai boys to the White House. Thai boys request to return to cage. What? Been handed photos. Yeah, Trump's lawyer says, Todd Blanche, he says, yeah, Your Honor, those are from this case. The juror said she didn't remember if she had posts on Facebook. He says, okay, let's bring her in. Hi, ma'am. We want to confirm this is your Facebook post about Trump and Thai boys. Is this you? He says, I don't know. It could be my Instagram. I'd like to say I remember posting it, but I don't. I've stopped posting about politics. It's gotten too vitriolic. Well, did these posts refresh your recollection? No, but I probably did post those. Okay, thank you, says the judge, and she is excused. Unlike the juror who said he wanted to see Trump locked up, she didn't express anything negative other than disagreement. And he says, you're right. So I won't strike her for cause anymore so she can stay on, even though she shares anti-Trump memes. Government strikes B146, defense strikes 292, 198, and they all shift forward. Now, I'd like to swear some of these people in, and then I'm going to ask them to come back on Monday. And so they bring them back in. Says, okay, you will be called, and these will be your permanent seats for the trial. Announces all. Juror 1, you're B400. Juror 2, you're B280. B. 381, you're juror number 3. B89, you're juror 4, and so on. Now, if you're not called here, you may leave. They all hustle out of there. Now, I ask you to come back on Monday at 9:30 for opening statements. Well, my instructions, then opening statements, and we're going to be choosing 6 more jurors and some alternates, and probably 6. And so those of you who are remaining, we are not done with you yet. First, we're going to swear in the group for Thursday morning so that they can go, and we may work past 4:30. Any hardships here? No hands? Counsel, please come up to the bench. They return. Judge says, can the defense confirm that all this social media you're using, it's public? Defense says, yeah, it's very much public. Of course, we're not the FBI looking through Trump's DMs like Jack Smith was, Judge. Now, the Thursday pool enters. We're still trying to pick up some jurors. And he says, next, we're going to do voir dire with the remaining 6. First, we'll take a 10-minute break, then we're going to resume. But since there are no longer 12 in the box, please don't take more than 15 minutes. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Now, we get some new jurors in to continue selecting. Clerk calls you forward. The clerk sets them in. Seat 3, B352, B269, they all start moving in. Okay, seat 1 again. Okay, we got a new person in seat 1. Tell us about yourself. I'm a doctor, and I'm concerned about how long this could take. He says, only you could tell us. I'm going to excuse you. You're out. He's gone. Seat 2 is a woman. I live in Harlem. Been living there for 5 years. I teach in a private school. I read the New York Times, MSNBC, Google. My roommate is at Legal Aid in the Bronx. 34 is yes. I have strong opinions about Trump. You have strong opinions? Yes, I do. Okay, you're out. Seat 3 lives in Upper East Side. He works in real estate. Says, I used to work for BT Alex Brown. My wife doesn't work. She's at home taking care of the kids. They're 13 and 16. I play tennis. I like to golf occasionally. And I work with the New York City Partnership and REBNY. I like podcasts. I listen to What's News. I know a lot of people in finance and on social media. When I first used Twitter, I did follow Trump, the president. I was just learning about it. I don't use it anymore. No hard feelings about Trump. Nothing that means I couldn't be partial. In full disclosure, I'm in real estate, which is what Trump's in, you know. So I know people who know the president. Okay, thank you. Seat 5's a guy. Says, I live in Upper East Side. I'm originally from North Carolina. Used to work at a Gibson Dunn law firm. I've got a JD. My wife's in risk management at a bank. I read the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and the Post. Don't hate Trump. No reason I can't be fair. Seat 6. This person's from Upper West Side. Retired law enforcement, photographer in the New York PD, Department of Corrections. Now I work for security firms, small business owner, BA Communications, 2 children, 1 I don't talk to. Any hobbies? Well, the 4 C's, including computers and charity. I belong to a Democratic club. It has nothing to do with anything, though. I was on a case. Merv Griffin and Donald Trump. I have friends that have done time. I'm a little nervous because I'm kind of in the spotlight here. This guy's talking a lot. I park in the housing project parking lot. I see the guys I grew up with. Some of them commit crimes. You know, it is what it is. No, I don't hate Trump. No, I not be fair. Here's the next person. Well, this guy says, I can't give up my job for 6 weeks. No way. He says, okay, now you're excused. And so now we're going to get the attorneys asking some more questions. For Alvin Bragg's office, Susan Hoffinger comes up, says, hey, B352, you said you're in real estate. You have any views of Trump's work? Well, I've seen the work. I'm an admirer from afar, I guess. He's built big, beautiful buildings. What'd you think of the art of the deal? He says, I thought it was entertaining. Looks at Trump. Trump says like this. MAGA. Now, Trump lawyer asks 352, well, what do you think of President Trump? He says, that's a loaded question. There's a lot of history there. There are things I disagree with, and there are things I think were well done in his presidency. Oh, he's done. Charge him with a crime. Oh, I remember the Central Park, but I'm interested in how he stirs people up. You know, it's up to the jury. This isn't showmanship. This is real life. A man's life is on the line. The country is on the line. I have a public access show about Harlem. Judge says, hey, jurors, please step out of here. Are there any challenges for cause on 3, 4, 5? Seat 4 looks like that's gone, becomes bring them back in, and then there are 7 back. And so looks like that's the day. So, okay, Justice Mercan, any challenges for these people? Let's bring them back in. Juror 4 becomes juror number 7. So we've got 7 jurors seated now, and then there were 7, and that is the day. Judge Mercan says we've kept everyone late enough. See you back here on Thursday. And so that is day 2, brought to us by Matthew Russell Lee at Inner City Press, doing amazing, incredible reporting. We would not be able to review this without him. And so be sure you are following him on X at Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee, ICP.substack.com, and on Patreon as well, /Matthew Russell Lee, to support his work. We're grateful for Matthew and his reporting, and the links are in the description below. And so day 2, my friends, is now in the can. We do have what it sounds to be 7 jurors who were there on the panel. And so we're going to do our work assembling the details. Who are these people? What's their background? What do we we know about them now that they start to be anchored in, and we'll have some details on that as the trial unfolds. But a very expected day, some interesting questions. To me, felt like a very anti-Trump demographic, and very non-surprising feature of this is that people are not good at self-selecting. Are you biased? No, not biased at all. Well, what are all these posts about? Oh yeah, because they want to get on there to do their diligence to wipe out their political opponents on behalf of the DNC. Here is Byron Donalds, who was commenting on this, explaining what he thinks about the selective and vindictive prosecution taking place in New York.
If they could do this to Donald Trump, they could do this to any American. But the truth is, Alvin Bragg would not do this to any American, which means that this is selective prosecution. This is political interference. The American people see it for what it is, and it should not be allowed to continue. You got this judge who said that President Trump can't even go to the graduation of his son. I mean, come on. That is pure spite. It is motivation for them. This is what the radical left wants to see happen. They don't care about justice. They care about getting their pound of flesh, and that is not what the United States of America is about.
Yeah, the judge saying yesterday, depends on where we're at the time of the trial and how things are progressing, whether or not I'll let you leave the courtroom to go to your son's high school graduation. A lot of people online saying, why couldn't you just come out right and say, yeah, you can go to the ceremony here, take one day off. I wanted to ask you, though, Congressman, about how independents and even some Republicans might be viewing this trial. Again, it could be wrapped up by the time the November election comes around. And if Donald Trump ultimately, by the jury, which again is based in New York City, convicts him, that could impact how people might vote in November, according to some polls. I'll just break down the numbers here. About half of independent voters, 1 in 4 Republicans say they would not vote for him if he were a convicted felon by election day. How are you reading those polls? Do you think the Trump team should be taking that to heart?
That's their game plan from the
left.
left.
Well, first of all, the polling, it all depends on how they put that question together. That's number one. Number two, people will say that in a vacuum generally when they're answering a poll sitting at home. It's another thing when you have to evaluate that information throughout an election process. And when you go back through how frivolous and BS these charges are, I think people are looking at it. They're going to say, man, this is all politics and this is all a show, especially considering the fact that under Alvin Bragg's leadership in Manhattan is less safe. There are crimes that they're actually busting down to misdemeanors that should be felonies that they're not prosecuting, let alone the stuff that they don't prosecute at all. This is all for politics. It's all for show. And you're going to have President Trump and many people on his team, like myself and others, who are going to make that case to the country. And I think voters are going to see the logic in that, the reason in that. And at the end of the day, the American people know when something is fair and when it is not. If people know that this is an unfair process, it is a process that they basically rigged, even how they're going through the jury selection process, where they're asking if you attended a Trump rally, do you watch Fox News? And if you say yes to those questions, the district attorney is suspending you from being able to sit on that jury. This is a farce.
Yeah, but they didn't ask about BLM or the other, major Democrat organizations. We had a whole list of them. The ACLU was not on that list, although someone mentioned it today. Do you work for the government? Did you work for a Biden campaign? I think Antifa was on there, but any other lefty groups, they didn't even care about or ask about. It was all to identify prospective Trumpers.
When you have the opportunity to make that case, I think voters will see for it what it is, especially when you put that in light of the fact that Joe Biden, Mr. Master of Disaster himself, will be left in charge to run the country. I think American voters will see right through that and support President Trump.
All right, we're going to do everything we can to continue to spread that truth, to show what's happening here behind the scenes. We got some amazing independent journalists like Matthew Russell Lee and others who are there, like Joe Neerman, Good Logic, who are there fighting to bring us the truth, to ungag the president, to show us what's happening inside the court of law, because no cameras in the courtroom. The judge has kept the docket on lockdown. They're throwing certain people out, saying it's full. Good Logic can't even get admitted to the building yesterday. So it is a partisan attack using the justice system. But the more people see it, I think the more they'll realize that this is society ending. If you don't have a justice system, there's really no society that you can have, because the people in power just corrupt the mechanisms of power for their own end, and you devolve into totalitarianism. So that's where we're headed, and these people are full steam ahead trying to take us there. But as they do, they'll continue to expose who they are. Byron Donalds, I think, is right. They're showing us who they are. We're holding a mirror up for all the world to see who these people are, and we're going to be here continuing to expose it. So thank you for joining us as we do, my friends. Thanks for inviting someone you know and love to come over here. Join us when we do our live streams, or share a short video with them, share a segment so they too can see what's ultimately happening, so that they're better apprised and energized and motivated motivated when it's time to vote. And we're grateful to have them here joining us with you. And so we got great links down in the description below. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking this video. Thanks for checking out watchingthewatchers.locals.com, becoming a membo, where we do streams in the morning. We get into other stuff that we can't squeeze in here. It's a little bit lower key, a little bit organic. We talk about a lot of fun stuff. We'd love to have you join us. Come check us out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'll see you over there and back here on the next one.